guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, how you doing tonight? I hope you're all doing very well. It is Tuesday, December 11th, and it's 9:46 p.m. I am getting a very late start today. I hope you will forgive me for that, but we're going to jump right in. We've got plenty of Q posts, and I did miss one post from yesterday, so we're going to hit on that post, and then I'm going to bring you up to date. Now, Q just posted a few minutes ago, and I do have those included. So if Q does not post again tonight, then we will be caught up. But if he does, then we will catch those up tomorrow. All right, let's get into it. Let me find my right page here. Okay, and this is the one that I missed from yesterday. And it says 17-minute delta between tweets, cherry on top. Q, what's he talking about? Well, it would be between these two tweets. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. I know that some of you are on your phones and tablets. And this is a tweet from Trump, and he says, well, let me go down here and read this one from Anonymous first. And this is this one on 12/10, and he said, please tweet the word knowledge on POTUS next tweet for one more coincidence. And so POTUS does that. And there's a 17-minute lull between when this Anon posts this request and when Trump fulfills that request. There's 17 minutes. So Q is saying 17-minute delta between tweets, and that's the cherry on top. So not only did he deliver, but he put a nice cherry on top. And here we have Trump acknowledging that former FBI Director Comey under fire for his testimony, acknowledging he knew that the Democrats paid for that phony Trump dossier at Lou Dobbs, details on Tuesday night. Now, what do you think? And Q also added down here, Q proof. Well, most certainly this is Q proof, because what are the odds that an Anon, and I mean, if you have been out to the 8chan board, you know how many people post there. So not only was Q combing this and found this, but within 17 minutes, he'd communicated it to POTUS, and POTUS posted. So first of all, you've got, the fact that he even acknowledged it by a tweet with that very word in it, knowledge, acknowledge. Same thing, really. I mean, it's got knowledge in the word. And it was 17 minutes, which 17, the 17th letter of the alphabet is Q, of course. We all know that, those of us that have been with this since the beginning. So, yes, that is further proof of Q. And that is why most people that are in the know and that follow this stuff are convinced that Q is real. Whatever you want to believe about him is fine, but don't say it's not real or it's a LARP, because it's provably not. All right. Now let's go on to the next one here. And I'm sorry, there were two posts from yesterday that I forgot. Well, I didn't forget them. I just had uploaded it and Q posted afterwards. So we're going to hit on those, and then we're going to just move forward to today's post. But here we've got a Twitter, a link to a Twitter account, and it belongs to Nate Kane. Now, who is Nate Kane? Well, Nate Kane is the man that the FBI raided his house. So let's see what Q has to say here. Well, first of all, since he's provided the link, let's go down, and I've clipped it out of Twitter just to save us a little bit of time. And it says, update, keeping my head up, staying strong in the Lord. 22 days since the FBI raided my house, and still no answers and no return of my equipment, which means I still can't work. God, please bring vindication, and please expose those involved. Don't allow any evil to befall me. Amen. And I would like to add my prayers to that and my agreement with that prayer, that the Lord keep him safe and that provide him with answers and provide him with a means for him to work. So this person posted this, and they posted it on December 10th, and Q responded to them and said, sometimes intrusions have a way of safeguarding people and evidence. Sometimes intrusions are a necessary event in order to safeguard chain of custody. Post OIG whistleblower status plus document handover protocols. So this person was a whistleblower. They are a whistleblower, and Q is saying you have post Office of the Inspector General whistleblower status, and active criminal investigations of this magnitude must be handled with extreme care. Now, this Q is not telling this to us. He is responding because this is where Q communicates. He does not communicate outside of the HN board at all with anyone. I mean, except probably in his day-to-day job with those people that know who he is, which POTUS has told us is only a handful of people. So there's very few people who know who this is. There's a lot of people that surmise or they think they know, and many people now are wondering if it's JFK Jr., but we do not know definitively yet, and so there's only a handful of people, and since Q only communicates on the board, he had to answer this man's post on Twitter on the board. So it's not meant for us, it's meant for him. And I think that it's very, it actually is a very human thing to do, to reach out to somebody that's hurting, as this man, Nate Kane, obviously is. His family's been hurt, he can't work, and he's worried about his safety. So, yeah, and Q says, the moment your name went live, there was no other choice. Keep the faith, patriot. You are never alone. Q. And no, he is not alone, because he has us, and I think that if you are a believer, that it would be good to pray for this person. I don't want to tell you what to do. You may have many, many people on your prayer list, but this would be a good person to pray for, that the Lord keep him safe and safeguard his testimony. Anyway, and you know, sometimes when somebody goes live like that, it's the best protection. Sometimes it's better to talk because you're less likely to be killed than, you know, I know that from personal experience. Anyway, let's go on here to the next one. And here it is. And Q is making reference here to a post that he did on November 25th. And that post was about a border security equals national security, fiscal year 2019 defense spending bill. Remember, we looked at this back in November. And budget overview, budget reconciliation. What if the House fails prior to major change? What vested authority does the Constitution grant a sitting president regarding matters of national security? And then he says, thank you, Mr. Soros. Q. Now, personally, I think that he's thanking Mr. Soros because George Soros, who of course in part funded the caravan, made it necessary, made the wall necessary, and it's brought it to the forefront of people's attention. So, you know, we could kind of pretend like, you know, all this stuff wasn't happening before, but now it's right in our face. And, you know, George Soros has made that possible. So, you know, Q is saying, well, thank you, Mr. Soros. You know, you thought you were doing this, but this is actually going to work in our favor because we're going to build the wall. And as a sitting president, he does have the under a constitutional right to do whatever he needs to do to keep the nation safe. If that includes building a wall, which it clearly does, then he does have the ability and the authority to do that. So we can rest assured with that it's a matter of national security, and he is allowed to do what he must to fund that wall. And beneath that, Q puts he puts a link to his own Twitter account. Well, no, sorry, I say his own Twitter account. It's not his own Twitter account. It's Donald Trump's Twitter account. And sometimes I get it in my head that Q is Donald Trump, and I think at times he's clearly said that it is. Q plus is Donald Trump when he's on Air Force One. So, yeah, it's understandable how anyone could do that, get that mixed up. But let's look at this this tweet that Donald Trump sent out. It says, "People do not yet realize how much of the wall, including really effective renovation, has already been built. If the Democrats do not give us the votes to secure our country, the military will build the remaining sections of the wall. They know how important it is." And I would agree. The military, of all people, know how important that wall is. Probably so do the people that live close to the border. I'm sure they are very much wanting a wall. I mean, I've heard so many stories from the ranchers in Arizona and in other places as well that are along the border there. So, and we also have another link here to a Fox News article, which we're going to go out and look at now. And Q adds, Anons already knew that. Q. So let's go see what Anons already knew. Oh, it's slow. Okay, Trump threatens to have military build border wall if Pelosi, Schumer won't budge. Well, what choice does he have, really? I mean, they're clearly not cooperating. It doesn't matter what Trump comes up with. They're not going to agree to it. So what choice does he have? All right. Now, Trump says military can finish walls if Dems won't budge. President launches threat on Twitter. I don't think it was a threat. I think it was a promise. I didn't take that as a threat at all. I think he's just saying this is what's going to be done. Not a threat, a promise. Ahead of his meeting with Pelosi, Schumer on border wall funding to avoid a government shutdown. Kevin Corke reports from the White House. President Trump threatened Tuesday to have the military build the remaining sections of the U.S.-Mexico border wall, appearing to revive a call to use Pentagon money to finish the project ahead of a meeting with congressional Democratic leaders opposed to the president's funding request. People do not yet realize how much of the wall, including really effective renovation, has already been built. If the Democrats do not give us the votes to secure our country, the military will build the remaining sections of the wall. They know how important it is. Trump vowed, capping a series of tweets meant to set the stage for the White House summit. And for their part, House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi and Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer put out a joint statement Monday arguing Trump and his party will own a government shutdown if they can't strike a deal. His party will own a government shutdown. That's an odd way of putting it. Republicans still control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and they have the power to keep government open, they said. Our country cannot afford a Trump shutdown, the Democrats said, adding that Trump knows full well that his wall proposal does not have the votes to pass the House and Senate and should not be an obstacle to a bipartisan agreement. Excuse me while I itch my nose. I wasn't picking it. I was itching it. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. All right. Congress last week temporarily averted a partial shutdown amid the funeral services for the late President George H.W. Bush, pushing the new deadline to December 21st. Trump was meeting at the White House Tuesday with Pelosi and Schumer to discuss a new government spending package, and I did see where they did meet today. With border wall funding, the biggest sticking point, the Democratic leaders arrived at the White House shortly before noon. Trump wants $5 billion for the project, while Democrats are offering $1.3 billion for border security. And that is for border security, not necessarily a wall, which doesn't go very far, mind you. And of course, it would be cheaper to build the wall than to pay for all the security, the border security, right? It would be much simpler, I think, and the wall would eventually pay for itself. No, I'm not being Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because I know that that's her favorite thing. Well, it'll just pay for itself. But in this instance, the wall really will, because we are spending out more paying for illegal immigrants than than the wall would cost. So it's a win-win situation for us. The president early this year pushed for military funding to finance the border project. While the administrators can move some money around in their budgets, they need approval from Congress, and the relevant appropriations bills for fiscal 2019 did not include money for this purpose. But actually it did. Remember that? Remember when he laid that out to us, that omnibus spending bill, that there was money in there for the military that actually was for national security and could be used to fund the wall. So this is not actually accurate reporting as far as I'm concerned, because according to Q anyway, that's what he told us way back, that the omnibus bill, so much was allotted for military spending, which is national security, but the border falls within that, because it too is national security. So top Democrats also warned earlier this year that the Pentagon would not have the power to redirect funding to the border wall, but Trump's tweets marked the latest effort on both sides to project a strong negotiating position. The president also claimed that the wall and fencing already in place helped turn back the migrant caravans formed in Mexico. He accused Democrats of sacrificing border security for political reasons, even suggesting Pelosi is holding up funding for a border wall in order to secure votes for the speakership in the next Congress. Well, isn't that what she's doing? That would be my understanding. I think it's pretty clear to those that can see. We have already built large new sections and fully renovated others, making them like new. The Democrats, however, for strictly political reasons and because they have been pulled so far left, do not want border security. They want open borders for anyone to come in. This brings large-scale crime and disease, he tweeted. Like, yes, of course it does. You're letting all these people in unvetted. You don't know who's coming across that border. You really don't. Or what they've done in Mexico or their country of origin. You just don't even, if they even are from Mexico, because there are people coming over from the Middle East and coming across the Mexican border because it's so porous and it's so easy to cross. So it's an issue. It's a big issue. Our southern border is now secure and will remain that way. I don't believe that. I don't believe that our southern border is now secure. I really don't. I think that there are areas, and people on YouTube have proven that there are areas where people are still getting through. So I don't particularly believe that. I look forward to my meeting with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. In 2006, Democrats voted for a wall, and they were right to do so. Today, they no longer want border security. They will fight it at all costs, and Nancy must get votes for Speaker. But the wall will get built. And see, the Democrats, too, are looking forward to 2020, right? And we know that they get a lot of, the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, tend to vote Democrat. That's a fact. So they're looking forward to 2020 and thinking, you know what, we gotta get this president out, and we need to do something. We need more people voting Democrat. And that's what they're thinking. They're thinking ahead. They really are. And it's very selfish. They want to retain power and control of the United States, and that is why they will throw you under the bus and your family under the bus to get it. It's quite evident. Pelosi does face pressure from her base not to bend on the border wall funding fight, But more than the Speaker's gavel is at stake. Democratic votes in both the House and Senate could be critical for averting a partial shutdown. 60 votes are required in the Senate to overcome a filibuster, and at least for the near term, Republicans only have 51 members. Republicans for the rest of the month have a comfortable majority in the House, but lack the votes on their side alone to pass a bill with or without wall money. Pelosi and Schumer have urged Trump to support a bill that includes half a dozen government funding bills largely agreed upon by lawmakers, along with a separate measure that funds the Department of Homeland Security at current levels through September 30th. And that would be through September 30th of next year, 2019. Democrats will likely push for continuing resolution that funds the remaining appropriations bill if Trump doesn't agree to that, an aide told the Associated Press. Trump said Friday that Congress could provide all the money he wants for the wall and called illegal immigration a threat to the well-being of every American community. And it is. Pelosi said she and many other Democrats consider the wall immoral, ineffective, and expensive. Oh, I don't think it's so ineffective. Not at all. So there you go. I'm not gonna finish that off. I think we've got what we need there. Yeah. Says, is there a better way to secure the border than the $5 billion plan Trump has laid out? Democrats need to come up with an alternative, Scalise said Monday. Well, there is no alternative. What is the alternative? You know, really. You either post military or more border guards, which is going to cost a lot. You know, the wall is, it's a lot of money. But once it's built, right? If you have border guards there, you have to continue to have border guards there year after year after year. And a lot of border guards, you've got to pay their salaries every year. The wall, once it's built, it's there. So anyway, all right, let's go on and go up to the next one, which is this. And this was posted December 11th today, and he is making reference to an earlier post from an anon that had this clipped out. Says at White House, border security is national security. Trump to meet with Pelosi, Schumer on border wall funding to avoid government shutdown. And let's take a look here, because beneath this, Q has given us a link. Well, actually, no, that's not correct. This anon provided the link to this article, and Q acknowledged it. So Q obviously has placed it in here for us to look at and wants us to go to this link. So that's what we're going to do. Well, let's hope we are anyway. Come on. I'm telling you. Some days my computer just turns against me. Okay, so the White House, border security is national security. We're going to go ahead and listen to this.
National security, the president's first. Look, border security is national security. The president's first and primary duty is to keep the American citizenry safe, and he's trying to do that here. I like what Kevin reminded us, your colleague Kevin Quirk, that in 2006 we had something called the Secure Fences Act. Let me go through some of the 26 Democratic senators who voted for that 12 short years ago. Senator Chuck Schumer, Senator Hillary Clinton, Senator Joe Biden, Senator Barack Obama. When politics weren't involved and national security and border security were on their minds, they did the right thing, and we hope they'll do the right thing here. The Democrats have a central question in front of them, Bill. Do they want to keep the government open, or do they want to keep the borders open?
There's the choice. You want to keep the government open or the borders open? So there you go. And let's go back now to the posts. Alrighty. And let's go up to the next one, because we can. And here is the next one. Now, this was posted by Q, and he says he provides a couple links in here, and they're both to the DCNF, which I believe is the Democratic Center of Northern Florida. Is that right? I did know what it was. Let me see. DCNF. I think it is. Oh no, it isn't. It's not that. What am I saying? It's the Daily Caller News Foundation. That's what it stands for. Daily Caller News Foundation. Sorry. I knew that I knew it, but I just couldn't remember what it was. So anyway, there you go. And we've got two documents here, and Q says, read carefully. Why is the Clinton Foundation back in the news? Names of whistleblowers being leaked or put out for strategic reasons? Normally, a whistleblower is protected and shielded from all non-essentials classified. How do you protect a valuable witness? Whistleblower. How do you protect the chain of custody of evidence? Name, identified public, name, identity. Oh, his name and identity are public. FBI intrusion, lawsuit, response to lawsuit, public reveal, otherwise sealed, moves and counter moves. So what they're saying is this whistleblower should have been, his name and identity should have been private. It should have been classified because he is a valuable witness, but it was not. It was not kept private, and it got out. So there's a lawsuit, and then there's a response to the lawsuit, and then there's a public reveal of this person. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of this, and I'll tell you something. I could not get in to see these documents. Maybe you can. They're on Scribd. I could not. You have to sign up for that. I don't know if it's free or not, but some of you guys that are on Scribd might be able to obtain it. And here's the description of the document. It says, U.S. Attorney motion opposing the Daily Caller News Foundation request to unseal FBI raid affidavits and other materials justifying the search of Dennis Nathan Cain. Now, he's the fellow that we looked at first that had made the post on Twitter, and Q had responded to him very, very kindly. And so basically, the Daily Caller News Foundation wanted the FBI to unseal the affidavit that gave them the right to raid Dennis Nathan Cain and other materials that justified this search. But I'm not sure if that has been supplied. What's it say here? How do you protect a valuable witness? How do you protect the chain of custody? Name was identified. It was made public, and it was, which it should not have been. The FBI intrusion. So there's a lawsuit, response to lawsuit, public reveal, otherwise sealed, moves and counter moves. So I'm really not exactly sure of everything that's going on here, but and wait, I think I do have a hang on. Let me go down here. Okay, here it is. Yeah, I found this actually because I was looking for a little bit more information about it because I didn't feel like I knew from the tweet enough information to understand exactly what Q was saying. I got the gist of it, but here the Daily Caller News Foundation sues state for Hillary AIDS security training records. So they've sued to get the security training records for Hillary. Now I know that this isn't in reference to the fellow that we just looked at, but I thought that this was interesting that they had sued to get those. And it says the Daily Caller News Foundation previously filed an October 9th, 2015 Freedom of Information Act request for the training records, but the department did not respond to the request within the 20 days allowed by the law. In addition to Clinton, the suit requests records for Under Secretary Patrick F. Kennedy, Chief of Staff Cheryl Mills, Deputy Chief of Staff Huma Abedin, and Deputy Chief of Staff Jacob Sullivan. The suit asked for documents memorializing certification that senior state officials had satisfied mandatory security training courses regarding the handling of classified materials and communications through secure equipment. It also sought records for IT security training as well. So the Daily Caller News Foundation wanted these records. They requested them through a Freedom of Information Act request in 2015, but they did not receive them within the 20 days that's allowed by law. And so they are filing suit because they want these records. They want to see if Clinton and Huma and Patrick Kennedy, Cheryl Mills, and Jacob Sullivan were adequately trained on handling classified material. That's pretty straightforward, right? Because they could claim, well, we weren't trained. We didn't know. We didn't know we had to do that. So I think they are trying to get that so that they can establish that, oh yes, they were trained. So they, willfully disobeyed. And I think that's the whole gist there. And they've also sued for the records of this man whose last name is Kane. They want the records. They want to know what information did the FBI have that made it necessary for them to, do what they did, I guess. So let's go back here. So, so they're requesting, they want it unsealed. The raid affidavits and other material that justified. They want to know, was this search of Dennis Nathan Kane justified or not? Because he's a protected whistleblower. So there you go. There's a lawsuit. And that will be very interesting because from what I understand from Q is that this should not have happened. They already had the material. So why did they raid this man? Don't know. All right, so let's go on. Lots of stuff happening, lots of stuff. All right, and we're going all the way back up here because this is a very long post. So Q here is making reference to a post by an anon. Now this anon says the following. Wow, what a show. President Trump on Tuesday engaged in an extraordinary argument with Democratic congressional leaders over his demand for border wall funding, threatening a government shutdown if he does not get the money. I will be the one to shut it down, he told House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer at the White House. During the contentious meeting in the Oval Office, Pelosi repeatedly asked Trump not to discuss the funding request in front of the news media. You will not win, Pelosi told Trump. The meeting was scheduled to be closed to the press, but the White House unexpectedly opened it to reporters just as Pelosi and Schumer were arriving at the White House. I love the way this man does business. Have I mentioned that before? How much I love. He's the master troller. And of course he wanted it to be open to the public because it makes them look bad because they won't agree to anything he wants. He wants it open to the public so the public can see. Okay, you want to know where the holdup is? There it is. See these two? Yeah. The meeting was scheduled to be closed to the press, but okay, I just read that. Now, the exchange heightened the sense of drama surrounding government funding stalemate between Trump and Democrats. Well, that is an understatement of the year. So let's go and look at this link that he's given us. I would not want to have to deal with those two. Seriously. I don't know what I'd do. I think I would just get so mad I'd want to just spit. Seriously. Now let's see what this says. I haven't heard this.
Open, that a shutdown is not worth anything, and that you should not have a Trump shutdown. You have the White House,
did you say
Trump
Trump?
shutdown.
Oh.
You have the White House.
gonna go on.
You have the Senate. You have the House of Representatives. You have the votes. You should pass it
No, we
right
don't have
now.
the votes, Nancy, because in the Senate, we need 60
No,
votes.
no, but in the House.
And we don't
You
have.
could bring it up right now.
Yeah, but I
today.
can't, excuse me, but I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste
Well,
time.
well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The
And-
House, we can get passed very easily.
Okay,
and we
then
do.
do it. Then
But
do
the
it.
problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote,
No,
and
that's
they
not
won't
the
vote.
point, Mr. President. The point is that there are equities to be weighed, and we're here to have a conversation in a
Correct.
prayerful way, so I don't think we should have a debate in
Correct.
front of the press on this. But the fact is, the House Republicans could bring up this bill if they had the votes.
Why not have a discussion in front of the press? Don't we want our government to be open? We pay these people. I mean, I think she forgets that it's us that's paying her salary. I don't get where she's coming from, saying, oh, I don't think we should have this in front of the press. We don't want them to know what's going on.
Immediately and set the tone for what you want.
If we thought we were going to get it passed in the Senate, Nancy, we would do it immediately. We'd get it passed very easily in the House.
No, that's
We
not
would
the
get
point.
it, Nancy, I'd have it passed in 2 seconds. It doesn't matter, though, because we can't get it passed in the Senate because we need 10 Democrat votes.
Well,
That's the problem.
again, let us have our conversation, then we
That's
can
right.
meet with the press again. But the fact is that legislating, and which is what we do.
Right.
You begin, you make your point, you state your case. That's what the House Republicans could do, if they had the votes. But there are no votes in the House, a majority of votes, for a wall, no matter where you start.
Exactly right. You don't have.
If I needed the votes for the wall in the House, I would have them in one
Well,
session,
then
would
go
be
do it.
done.
Go do it.
It doesn't help because we need 10 Democrats in
No,
the
don't put it
Senate.
on the Senate, put it
course.
on the negotiation.
Okay, let me ask you this, and we're doing this in a very friendly manner. It doesn't help for me to take a vote in the House where I will win easily with the Republicans.
You will not win.
It doesn't help to take that vote because I'm not going to get the vote
Don't put
of
it
the
on
Senate. I need
Mr.
10
President.
senators. That's
Mr.
the problem.
President, you have the White House, you have the Senate.
I have the
you
White House. The White
of
House is
Representatives.
done, and the House would give me the vote if I wanted it, but I can't because
Well,
I
you
need,
can't-
Nancy, I
you
need 10
can't.
votes from Chuck.
No,
All right, let me
Mr.
say
President,
something here.
Let me just say one thing. The fact is, you do not have the votes in the House.
Nancy, I do, and we need
Well,
border
let's take the
security.
vote, we'll
Nancy,
find out.
Nancy, we need border security. It's very simple.
Of course we do.
She's dumber than a box of rocks. She doesn't get it, does she? Oh my gosh. I would be so frustrated sitting there listening to this woman because just the way she talks, I don't know. It drives me crazy because she just sounds like someone that really is convinced that they know what they're talking about, but really has no clue.
We need border security. People are pouring into our country, including terrorists. We have terrorists. We caught 10 terrorists over the last very short period of time. 10. These are very serious people. Our border agents, all of our law enforcement has been incredible what they've done. But we caught 10 terrorists. These are people that were looking to do harm. We need the wall. We need, more important than anything, we need border security, of which the wall is just a piece.
Yeah,
President Trump meets with Democratic leaders.
I don't know really how he does it. I really don't, because I know for myself, I would be so frustrated in dealing with those two. Because it doesn't matter. He just goes around and around, and it doesn't matter how he says it, because they're concerned with stopping it. And they're going to do that. They're not open to having a conversation. It's quite evident they're not open to having a conversation. President Trump on Tuesday engaged in an extraordinary argument with the Democratic congressional leaders over government funding, threatening a partial shutdown if the demands for a border wall are not met. I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Trump told House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer during a contentious 17-minute exchange inside the Oval Office. I will take the mantle, the president added. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. Trump's vehemence left Pelosi and Schumer exasperated, with both leaders pleading with the president not to debate the funding request in front of the news media. Why didn't they want it discussed in front of the news media? Pretty obvious. Unfortunately, this has spiraled downward, Pelosi said, after arguing with the president over the need for a border wall and whether Republicans have the votes to pass the wall funding through the House. And I believe our president, if he says he has enough votes in the House, then he has enough votes in the House. And it should go to the Senate, where it'll get blocked because he doesn't have the 10 Democratic votes that he needs to fund the wall. It's not bad, Nancy. It's called transparency, Trump shot back after one objection from Pelosi, who appeared to anger the president when she accused him of wanting a Trump shutdown over the wall. I think the American people recognize that we must keep government open, that a shutdown is not worth anything, and that we should not have a Trump shutdown, the Democratic leader said in her opening remarks. A what did you say, Trump? The president responded before whispering in Schumer's direction that he had been planning to call it a Pelosi shutdown. I didn't hear that. Vice President Mike Pence was seated next to Trump during the meeting but did not speak. I noticed that. I thought, wait a minute, why isn't he saying anything? The combative exchange raised fresh doubts about whether Trump and Congress can avert a partial government shutdown by December 21st funding deadline, as both sides appeared unwilling to give ground on the border security positions. Tuesday also marked the first time Trump huddled with Schumer and Pelosi since the midterm elections. The spat provided a glimpse of what divided government could be like for the president when Democrats take control of the House next year. But are they going to take control of the House next year? That's a question. We don't know what's going to happen between now and then, because I think a lot of people are going to be indicted, right? We don't know what's going to happen. Trump sought to heighten the drama surrounding the funding dispute. The meeting was scheduled to be closed to the press, but the White House unexpectedly opened it to reporters just as Pelosi and Schumer were arriving at the White House. After the meeting concluded, Schumer said Trump will shoulder all of the blame if the government does shut down. Well, of course, it's always Trump that's to blame for everything. Everything's always Trump's fault, according to them. Trump began the day by making his case on Twitter why a wall is needed, while dialing back his demand for full funding, suggesting the military could build parts of it. Democrats said Trump does not have the legal authority to use the military to build the border wall. Oh, yes, he does. Absolutely, he does, positively. To the extent that he could do so at all, it would be reckless and irresponsible to waste national security resources on a border wall that is nothing more than in-kind contributions to his re-election campaign, said Representative Nita Lowry, who is expected to claim the gavel of the House Appropriations Committee next year. Well, of course, because that's what he ran on, is building the wall, right? It's what the American people want. That's why the American people elected Trump. They don't get it. They don't get it. Oh, he's just wanting, this is just so he'll get reelected. Well, yeah, because he ran on that, and that's what the American people are expecting him to do. But it doesn't matter to the Democrats what the American people want or how safe they are. They don't care about national security. Not at all. So anyway, I'm not going to go through all of this. Probably some of you have already heard some of this on the news tonight because it's everywhere. But probably it's everywhere, but it's also, got their little twist on it because it doesn't seem like we're getting anything that's real from the mainstream media, anything that's unbiased, maybe I should say. All right. So now we're not finished with this post because there's lots more. Here we go. Let me make this bigger for you tiny phone people. I don't know where that came from, tiny phone people. It's like tiny home people, except it's tiny phone people. Okay. And this is an old tweet from March 23rd, 2018, and I'm sure you guys will remember this. I certainly do. Clock activated, red castle, green castle, stage, 5 yes. Q. Now here, there's a picture of a red castle, and then we come down here and we realize, and we went through this back in March, I remember those posts. There is the logo for the Army Corps of Engineers, and what is it? Red castle. Well, actually it's a white castle, but red background. So, and where are they located? In Greencastle, Indiana. Yeah, Red Castle, Green Castle. Stage 5, which means loud and clear. Yes. So, U.S. Army Corps of Engineer, building strong. And that's not the end of it either. There's more to this post. So, referring to this, Q says, "You will not win." Pelosi. "You didn't think the largest military spending bill in history, fiscal year 2019, wasn't going to indirectly include funding for the wall, did you? Learn the Constitution regarding vested powers of POTUS regarding matters of national security." Now, who's he directing this to? He is directing this to Pelosi. He's saying, yeah, you know, she should know this. If we know this, why doesn't she? She's being paid a good salary. That's her job to know this, right? But she doesn't. You didn't think the largest military spending bill in history wasn't going to indirectly include funding for the wall, did you? No, she didn't. Learn the Constitution regarding the vested powers of POTUS regarding matters of national security, because that is his highest calling, I guess, as president, is to protect the nation. National security is number one. Number one. If you're not safe as a country, what do you have, really? Who cares if the economy's doing great if nobody's safe? This was planned and forecasted as the border funding solution from the beginning. See, Trump is always 5 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead. Then we have another Twitter status here. And, okay, I've got that down here. And before we go out to that, Anons had the proof long ago, but shining a light back then would have defeated the primary purpose of showing the public the real objective of Democratic Party of open borders, elimination of ICE agents, elimination of security, defend illegals over Americans, which they do, midterm elections. These people are stupid. Q. Yes, they are. And I don't like calling people stupid, but they're intelligence impaired. And here is this, which we've looked at already from In the Matrix. And if you are on Twitter, this is a great person to follow, for real. They are very, very good. They're active on 8chan's board as an anon, I believe, and they're really, really good. I have been very pleased with the information that they put out and grateful as well. So if you're on Twitter, you might want to consider following this person. I'm on Twitter as well under Mishel, Mishel, D, capital D, Bytes, Bytes. And if you follow me and you want me to follow you back, then just let me know. And I will. So we've already looked at that. We don't need to look at that any further. Let's go back to Q. So there's our whole big border wall kerfluffle. Boy, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that every day. Really. I don't think I would do well in a situation like that if I had to deal with people like that were so inflexible, and they're gonna block it just to block it no matter what. So it doesn't matter what the American people want. They know that the people want it. They don't care. What do they care? All right, because Pelosi's house has a great big border around it. Oh, huge wall around her house. Great big old mansion. Oh, yeah. Wonder how many illegal immigrants could fit in there. Probably quite a few. Probably quite a few. Just saying. Just saying. I mean, if she's so for open borders, why does she have a wall around her house? Does that make sense? In fact, she should just take off the front door. That's what I think. Just take it off. Because, I mean, she obviously thinks that everything should be open, right? It all belongs to everyone. So, I mean, she's communist, isn't she? Or no, she's not communist. She's socialist. She's socialist. So, I mean, she should want to share everything that she has. She should take that front door right off her house. Why keep people out when they want in? I'd like in. You know, make me some soup. Make me a sandwich. Nancy, I want in. Yeah, I want to sleep in your bed. I want to, break your china. I want to, stuff like that. When you've got really bad guests, yeah, I'd like in. Just saying, why can't I come in? All right, so let's go on. When she does take that door off her house and knock down that wall around her house, I'll take her seriously, really. But until then, I don't think so. Okay. And here we've got another tweet or another post by Q, and he's giving us a link to an article, and he says, think Graham and Kavanaugh exchange. And remember what they were talking about? They were talking about military law. And I thought that was very interesting at the time, because that was during the whole Ford, two-door Ford. It was during that whole debacle there. And, Lindsey Graham was asking Justice Kavanaugh about military law. And I thought, gosh, this is really, because knowing what Q had told us, I knew why it was being asked. And I thought, wow, this is really happening. It's really happening. It's going to happen. They've brought it right out in front of everybody. So anyway, let's go to this news article, because we can. Oh, come on. There we go. Sometimes you just have to be firm with it. Civilians could serve on military tribunals. Pentagon lawyers designing historic military tribunals to try terrorists are poring over history books and legal tomes for guidance. Yeah, try terrorists. Well, I guess they could be considered terrorists, couldn't they? While U.S. law permits the executive branch to design the commissions with few restrictions, even with little regard to precedent, officials drafting the rules are reportedly keeping history in mind. America has a long tradition of using military tribunals to try foreign combatants and even terrorists, reaching as far back as the American Revolution. Most recently, military commissions were used extensively by the United States during and after World War II. In 1942, President Franklin Roosevelt used tribunals to try 8 Nazi saboteurs who landed on the East Coast, apparently to harm wartime industrial production. Hundreds of German and Japanese prisoners were tried at military tribunals, including after the fall of Nazi Germany. White House officials say the administration is carefully studying the rules and procedures used at the Nuremberg trials, which resulted in the indictment of scores of Nazi officials and organizations charged with abetting the Nazi effort. The Nuremberg trials were distinct from military tribunals established in the United States in that they used high-ranking civilians as judges. Some experts say placing respected civilians on the Bush terror tribunals, such as retired U.S. generals or former secretaries of defense, or attorney generals sessions, would go a long way towards shoring up international support for such commissions. The more that can be done to make this process appear like a regularly constituted court, the greater it will be received in the global community, said Sean Murphy, a professor at George Washington University Law School. That's probably correct. The Bush team is also reportedly looking at rules. Now, gosh, how old is this? This is from 2001. Well, this is where he sent us, is it not? Or, yeah, this is where we're going. All right. So, just didn't seem right that it's so old. But anyway. Some experts say placing, okay, we've already read that. The Bush team is also reportedly looking at rules of procedure drawn up for career and war-era military commissions that never took place. The rules provided defendants with reasonable opportunity to consult with his counsel before and after defense, to interpretation of charges and the substance of the proceedings, as well as any documentary evidence. The defendants were to have the right to remain silent, to cross-examine witnesses, and to a presumption of innocence until guilt is established beyond a reasonable doubt. The Bush November 13th order establishing such commissions has already said the tribunals may not carry the reasonable doubt burden of proof or other principles generally recognized in the U.S. civilian courts. So, wow, they don't have to provide reasonable doubt. 1866 court says civil courts should have been used. Military tribunals like those currently under consideration by President Bush have not been used by the United States since the World War II era, but they were used even earlier in the Civil War to try suspects accused of plotting to assassinate the governor of Indiana, free Confederate prisoners, and seize the federal arsenal at Rock Island, Illinois. Abraham Lincoln, Secretary of War, decided to try the alleged conspirators, anti-war Democratic politicians, before a commission composed of military officers. The suspects were indeed tried by the tribunal, and several were sentenced to be hanged. But the condemned men appealed their case, called ex parte Milligan, to the Supreme Court, which decided after the war had ended in 1866 that civilians could not be tried by a military tribunal if the civil courts were open and functioning. Decades later, President Franklin Roosevelt ordered similar tribunals to try 8 Nazi saboteurs who landed in the United States 6 months after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and had been instructed to destroy war industries in the United States. 4 of the saboteurs landed on Amagansett Beach on Long Island, New York, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, in the middle of the night in a German submarine carrying a supply of explosives. 4 other landed at Point Verde Beach, Florida. All 8 landed on U.S. soil in Nazi uniform, but eventually ditched their military dress for civilian togs. All were eventually captured in New York or Chicago. Roosevelt, declaring the suspect had no right for trial in U.S. civilian courts, appointed a military commission that subsequently sentenced the saboteurs to death. Today, many experts believe Roosevelt chose to try the suspects by tribunal because government agencies had bungled the case. Court upholds Nazi saboteur panel. The saboteurs who landed on Long Island came up a U.S. Coast Guard beach patrolman who happened to be unarmed. The Nazis managed to get away, and Coast Guard officials did not contact the FBI for 12 hours after spotting the saboteurs. But a leader of the saboteurs was worried about the Coast Guard encounter and decided to call the FBI to hand the group in. They were sort of the Keystone Cops of the espionage business, says Michael Belknap, professor at California Western School of Law. The Nazis chose saboteurs because of their familiarity with the United States. One had previously been a waiter in New York's Catskills Mountain. Another fell under German influence only after fleeing Chicago to avoid marrying his pregnant girlfriend. They were really not very good, Belknap says, but their case went to the U.S. Supreme Court and now serves as a model by which the Bush administration or the Trump administration can build a framework for terror tribunals. So this is why we're reading this. The saboteurs' defense counsel argued that there had been no invasion of the United States and the civilian courts were open. Under the Supreme Court's Milligan ruling, then, the president should not have resorted to military commissions, they argued. Further, the attorneys argued that one of the saboteurs was a U.S. citizen. But the Supreme Court, the case ex parte Quirin, said Despite these arguments, the men could be tried and sentenced to death by a military tribunal. The Supreme Court is deferential to the executive branch in wartime. And we, by the way, we are in a state of war. We've been in a state of perpetual war since September 11th, 2001. So we are in war. We're considered to be in war. So the Supreme Court is deferential to the executive branch in wartime. Belknap said the Milligan case is one of several that the court has handed down after a war is safely over, in which they articulate libertarian principles but rarely do that while a war is going on, he said. So, isn't that quite fascinating? Why is Q letting us know all this now? Well, we know that, don't we? So let's go back and let's go on, because this is where I had stopped and I was getting ready to record, and Q dropped two more. So we've got two more here, and then we're going to finish up. So here is the second from the last one, and there's a link here, and it says number 5, impeachment. Impeachment requires 2/3 of a vote by the Senate, and we know that because we've looked at that previously. And here's another link, and it said, what are the odds of that? You are watching fake news, fake politicians, fake Hollywood all play to their destroy America base. Facts matter. Q. They sure do. So let's take a look at what he's talking about. They're probably going to be talking about impeachment, and there's no way they're going to get a majority in the Senate, because the Republicans have the Senate, right? So they're not going to get 2/3 of a vote to impeach Trump. I mean, they can dream all they want. It's not going to happen. So this is Mark Levine, A Time for Truth. A sitting president cannot be indicted. That's official DOJ policy since 1973. Neither the special counsel nor the Southern District of New York nor Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein can defy that 45-year-old policy, because there are people out there saying that Trump's going to be indicted. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Okay, SDNY is not expert in campaign finance violations, and neither is the Clinton-appointed district judge. They rarely handle campaign finance cases. The left-wing media and politicians are regurgitating what the prosecutors have merely filed in their own self-serving brief. The media and others intentionally refuse to look at the actual rules and context. They refuse to even question what these procedures have thrown together, what these prosecutors, rather, have thrown together. The actual campaign rules and context do not include non-disclosure agreements or infinite other contracts, payments, arrangements, acts of private nature, etc. as campaign contributions. This is normal human behavior and was never intended to be regulated or reported. SDNY is dead wrong. These private payments can be made in any manner or any amount. So I'm not exactly sure what he is. And here it says about the impeachment, which I think that he's trying to point out. As for impeachment, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, involving wholly private matters occurring before the president was even a candidate and completely unrelated to his office, cannot legitimately trigger the Constitution's impeachment clause. Indeed, they could not be more irrelevant. The history of the clause and its high crimes and misdemeanors language make it crystal clear that the office and the president's duty are not affected in any conceivable way by these earlier private contracts. Of course, Republican Gerald Nadler, another New York City radical, could not care less. He's more than thrilled to be executioner in this French Revolution redux. The Constitution be damned. Meanwhile, he and the others wave around the Constitution as if they're defending it against a tyrant. It is they who are the tyrants. I could not agree more. It's about time somebody started talking some sense. It's ridiculous. Really, it is. And I get very frustrated here because I try to say that, but people, they have none of the facts, but they think they know. They think they know. And that's what's frustrating. All right, and then let's look at this. This is the second link that he's left us. Let's take a boo at that, if it'll let me. Come on. Here we go. And this is the United States Senate. Okay, well, I'm not going to read all this. I'm not. Historical development and all that. Because the part that Q wants us to know is that they need, in order to impeach a sitting president, you need 2/3 of the vote in the Senate. They will never get that. They won't. So I think that is the part that Q is pointing out, that this isn't even viable. These people talking about, oh, we're going to indict him. He can't be indicted. We're going to impeach him. Well, they could impeach him, but it'll never pass. It'll never go through. So what do you do? And you can't, don't even try to argue with the people that are saying this, because I've tried, and believe me, it's not worth your grief. All right, so this is the last post. I assume, let me go out here real quick. Well, Q has been posting more, apparently, because there's another one. Let me see here. I might have to, oh, there's no reason we can't look at that last one too. Bring us all the way up to date. I'm sure that you guys want to be totally up to date, and I know I do. So here is the second from the last one. How do you quell growing protests against you? Notice a pattern? Q. All right, well, let's take a look at what he's pointing out here. It's manhunt. Suspect in Strasbourg shooting identified was on terror watch list. So let's see what they're saying here. The suspected gunman behind the deadly shooting in Strasbourg, France, Tuesday evening has been identified and was on a terror watch list, though officials refused to release the man's name or age. A shooting in the French city of Strasbourg killed 2 people and wounded at least 8 others, officials said. The shooting sparked a major security operation around a world-famous Christmas market on Tuesday. The gunman, who is at large, has been identified and has been flagged as a suspected extremist. I'm wondering what's coming next. I can almost feel it. Can't you? Just in, French counter-terrorism prosecutor opens investigation into Strasbourg shooting incident. Paris prosecutor tells. Just in, French police. Strasbourg shooting suspect is known to authorities and on a terrorist watch list. Suspect remains at large. Everyone in the Neudorf area warned to stay indoors. So, I don't know. That's all we're hearing, but I think probably the reason why, and then look it over here, are impeachments coming? No, they're not coming. Oh, maybe, I don't know. Are they saying, I haven't even actually looked into this yet, this shooting in France, so I'm not sure. Are they saying that this was like a Trump supporter or a Q supporter, or what are they saying? I mean, they're saying it's an extremist, but are they saying it was a right-wing extremist? I don't know, because that would make sense. That would make Q's post make sense if it did. How do you quell growing protests against you? Well, I guess you just start shooting them. I don't know. He says, notice a pattern? Q. Don't know. I mean, I think what he's doing is he's basically, I would assume, this is what I assume, but please, I'm always interested in your opinions. I would assume that he's telling us this is a false flag, and they're doing this because of all the protests, because it will change the news cycle, right? That's what I'm getting from this, actually. So they did this false flag to change the news cycle and get all the protests out of the news and get something else in, which is actually very sad because people died. All right, now we're going to look at the last Q post, and I'm going to have to go out to the board itself because I haven't copied it yet. So this one has a link to Twitter, and it says, what a coincidence, Q. Well, let's go and take a look at what this coincidence is. Shall we? Sure. Why not? Lots of sealed indictments. The Clintons' cloud of corruption. Well, let's listen to their cloud of corruption. I think it's more than a cloud. Okay, sorry.
Blowers coming forward. William Campbell spoke to the Little Rock, Arkansas FBI field office recently, and he delivered that information. And now we know there's other whistleblowers coming forward. So something is shifting, something is happening, and Hillary Clinton and the foundation are being investigated. We'll just have to wait and see what they find.
I know everybody's frustrated because this has only been a one-sided investigation. So it's all been
That's
all
right.
things Trump. But, and I think you all will confirm with me, is that my sources tell me all of this is coming out. From the dossier, to FISA abuse, to the Uranium One deal. All agree?
Oh, yeah.
Hope you're right.
I agree. Lots of
Certainly
sealed
hearing that
indictments,
now.
Sean. Lots of sealed indictments.
I have very good sources. I really do. And you guys do too. Great work, all
I know.
three of you.
Awesome. Now that made my whole night. I don't know about you, but it made my whole night. That's awesome. So don't anybody say nothing's happening. Look at me, like waving my finger at you like I'm all bad. Yeah, don't say anything that nothing's happening, because it is. It is. Lots happening. All right, well, that's it for tonight. If Q posts any more tonight, I think we will catch up with that tomorrow. And I'm going to sign off for tonight because it's just about 11 o'clock. And anyway, I hope you guys sleep well, that you have a good night, that you stay safe, stay well, and stay blessed. And I will talk to you guys real soon. Good night.